Okay, so we're going to go ahead and have a discussion today with our married couple. This is Christina and Ron. We're discussing how to keep a happy marriage together because a few of our previous conversations have been about the turmoil that's happening in the community between Black men and women. So we wanted to focus on happiness today. We want to focus on what it's going to look like for us to maintain happy relationships and what it means to sort of mitigate the problems that are happening in our homes without inviting in negativity, without inviting in people's opinions, so on and so forth. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring in our happy married couple today. This is Christina and Ron. They're going to join our discussion so that we can talk very candidly about what it means to keep together a happy marriage, especially when we're dealing with life, we're dealing with business, we're dealing with children, ups and downs with financial concerns, the whole gamut of what it means to do life with someone. So, welcome, you guys. Thank you for being here today and offering us your professional opinions about a happy marriage.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
I'm looking
Thanks
forward
thank
to
you
it.
for having me.
Yes. It's very nice for us to be able to change up the dynamic a little bit because it's very common these days for us to be talking about the gender wars, but we don't necessarily talk about the healthy, relationships that do exist in our communities. We talk about all the time about our mothers and fathers who have had these long lasting relationships, and we're constantly asking them, how do they do it? But we don't really ask our peers, how are we lasting in these healthy relationships. So firstly, I want to ask, how did you guys meet? Because I think this has a lot to do with how our relationships are able to last in our community. Sometimes we go to clubs and we go to just some unsightly places where we're meeting people that don't necessarily even appear to have the materials that it takes for to last. So how did you all meet?
You want to answer that round or you want me to do
Mhm.
it?
Well, we met. I was 18. I believe she was 17. I think it was her first job. Um, it was at Wendy's. It was at Wendy's, and we worked there together, and that's how we ended up meeting. I don't know if you want to elaborate, Chris.
Yeah, we met there, but we weren't together um,
Mhm.
at all. I was interested in him, but he was not interested in me at that time like that. He was young, I was young, and I had already had a child. So he didn't I guess maybe I just looked like, she got a kid, I don't know what it was. Maybe you could tell around, but he wasn't really interested like that. So we just were friends for a few years.
Well, of course, she was always a beautiful woman. But yeah, I think it's just an ideal situation where when you're young or even when you're older, it's an ideal situation. You want to be with somebody and build with them. You don't want to let's just be realistic. I know a lot of situations is not like that, but you want to go in a situation where you and that person have a child together. So yeah, me being single, young, and not having a child at the time, of course I looked at this girl. Yeah, she's pretty, but I don't want to be with her because she got a child. I want to start fresh with the person I met, but it didn't happen like that. We ended up being good friends, and then eventually we ended up
I'll
being
wind them
together.
down, Reese. I'll wind them down.
I know that's right, girl. You gotta work your magic sometime. But what makes me interested in the origin story is typically, we look at things like, our chick flicks and the stories that kind of woo us as young women about how love is supposed to look in the beginning. It's usually a fairy tale. It's usually, oh, it's love at first sight, and he just swept me off my feet, and it was just a perfect, beginning, and everything was great. And that's how a lot of young women in a fantasy world get sold on love. And I hear a lot of brothers talk about that, how it's just simply not real for it to happen that way. So when you all met and you realized that there was a disconnect when it comes to just your living dynamics as far as expectations on how you want to build with a woman, what ultimately made you change your mind about committing yourself, about being willing to start a family or grow a family with her because she already had a family, a small family of her own? What made you actually say, okay, I'm going to give this woman grace and I'm going to allow her to show me who she is and I'm going to build with her from here?
Well, I got to know her. We became real good friends, and um we live in Miami, Florida, right? So we've been through the years we knew each other. We knew each other now for I guess almost 20 years, right? So
Yeah, I'm 38, and we met when I was 17. So
yeah, so we know each other for a while, right? So we've been through hurricanes and storms, and it's
as
funny that
friends,
every time like something would happen, we would always look out for each other. Like she'll call me, "Hey man, you good? You got enough water? You got this?" And I'll do the same. And we'll always go and check each on each other where when there's no lights or something like that. Hey, you good? And I think I realized, and of course she realized that through whatever we go through, whatever situation, we would always have each other back. And that right there, I guess as I got mature, because I was immature, of course, I didn't realize that. I realized that's somebody I want to be with. That's somebody I want to be with for the rest of my life. Especially we got a good friendship. She always got my back. I always got hers. I was like, you know what? It wasn't me at first. My friend, my best friend named Drake, he was like, man, yo, I know, she got her situation, or bro, like clearly I got chemistry. You need to get with her. And I was like, I was like, you know what? I think you're right. And yeah, it was my good friend. He was like, yeah, go ahead and do it. And I said, okay, all right, I'll do it. And hey, we
That's
still here.
funny.
So thank God.
That is surprising that another brother was the one that kind of like gave you the small push that you needed to be like, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna do this. So, Christina, tell me about what attracted you to your husband, because I know that as women, kind of, I don't want to say rejection, but just this challenge of, I got to get this man to see me, I got to get him to like me. What was the driving force for you? Was it his personality, just his physical attraction? What was it that made you persist in wanting to? Because I know friendship, we all know, we like to say that's my friend, but you know good and full well that friendship has something up under it. So what was it that made you keep on pressing in the friendship until you reached the prize of what you was looking for?
well, the thing is, when I first met him, I was coming out of very, I don't even know how to describe it, but it wasn't a good relationship. It had a lot of violence. It had a lot. The fact that I made it out alive, all glory to God, because I hear stories that are mine are worse sometimes. So the fact that I made it out of that was a blessing. So I didn't know what love looked like. I didn't know what someone caring about you looked like. So I can't really say when I saw his personality, I was like, oh my goodness, this is the perfect guy. I can't really say that because I didn't know what it looked like. All I knew is when I first saw him. It's so weird. I know people say it, but it's true. I walked in. I remember walking in. They took me to the register because that was my first little job. They was getting ready to train me. And I turned over and I see a group of guys all talking. And, they're talking, laughing, talking about everything they do and what they want to do. And Ron was just sitting there very quiet. He was paying attention to everything around him, but he wasn't saying much. But everybody seemed to want to talk to him. Does that make sense? I don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember looking at him. I just felt like it was a light shining on his head, like,
I know that's right.
and
God
I
told you, man,
remember,
it was
I remember I said, I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. I remember saying that. And he could tell you the stories. I don't know if you want to get into it, Ron, but I tried everything. It didn't work. It took years before I finally got him. But I snuck him my number. I jacked him up in the cooler, everything. I was doing everything to try to get his attention.
Do
And
you
he
believe it
wasn't
was
caring.
just
Oh,
divine intervention that was like,
Yes,
this is
girl.
the guy he was
And
chosen?
finally he gave in and he said, listen, I do not like you like that. Because I wouldn't stop. He said, I don't like you like that. But you're a cool girl. So can we just be friends? Now, some people might think that's like my friend, but me, I took it as okay.
Getting somewhere. Here we go. Yes, sir. I sure will be your
So,
friend.
so I don't know if it was his quietness. I don't know if it was the fact that people were really like looking at him like a leader. I don't know if it was as he worked, I always seen he bust his butt, never complained. I don't know what it was. The fact that he wasn't interested, I couldn't really tell you. It could have been a culmination of all the things. But I just knew when I first saw him, I just knew like, yeah, that's the person that I want to be with for the rest of my life.
Okay, I got you. I like that. I like that because it's like a alternative to the fairy tale. You know, it does. I mean, some fairy tales do start off like that, where there's a little bit of adversity in the beginning, but it makes sense that like there's a magnetic energy there that will keep you coming back to each other, regardless if you both have little hangups that stop you from the beginning. But I want to give you both an opportunity to answer this next question because I want to know now, most of the time in our modern culture, and this is what I want to, my intention is to focus on trends that happen in our relationships, just in modern relationships, where you find that you might be in this highly magnetic initial attraction with a person. And so I'm going to start with Ron and then we're going to ask Christina. Did you find out, like, after you got into the part where you're now dating and you're now consciously together, where you found out like or you had kind of like a hot and heavy start and then it trickles off? Was there ever a point in time where you were like, nah, I think I made a mistake with this? Do I want to turn around? Did you ever get to that point? And what
Mm.
did you do about it to keep going?
Um, well, well, okay. Yeah, that did happen. That did happen because I guess I still was in an immature mindset. I'm gonna be honest. So since we being honest, and it probably could help some people. Um, I I wanted to mess with other women, more women, right? So and I felt like, you know, her and the kids was holding me back. I felt like I was too young to be settling down and all that, and I took on too much. So basically, I broke it off. Right. So we broke it off. We broke it off. I'm not gonna say it was just me. We broke it off. Because I was bringing a lot of problems with her too. Because I was messing with other women and stuff like that while we was together. After a few years, but then that time away from each other, um, I realized what I have lost. Um, what I lost, and how stupid I was, and that these other women couldn't even put on her shoes, so to say. And and I realized I had enough in her, you know. And it took a little fighting, you know. I don't want to bring this up, but since you said that, I guess I had to say it. It took a little fighting and persuasion and praying, but I want her heart back. I want her heart back. And we got back together and we worked it out. And
I
then
love
we ended up getting married. I think a year later. 'Cause I was like, yeah, I don't want to leave
11
her.
months.
Yeah.
I know that's right. She said, "I know exactly." So,
11
Christina,
months.
for you now, I understand now. He came to this, moment of clarity where he realized that the grass is not always greener on the other side. That any one woman is going to be a lot to handle, and so to try to take on multiple women is probably not a good idea for any brother. But I think some brothers still got to go through the motions to figure that out, like you did. But Christina, did you have the same type of reality? I mean, excuse me, the same aha moment, like this was a mistake at the same time that he did, or did you have it at another time where you figured this is not the man I want to actually be with? I think I made a huge mistake. Has it ever happened, and when did it happen?
It was another time.
Hmm.
So when we broke it off, we did it together. We did. We sat
Hmm.
down and we decided it wasn't working. But the only reason I decided it wasn't working was because I knew he wasn't happy.
Hmm.
Remember,
Yeah,
he's my friend
that's deep. Yeah.
first. He's my friend first.
Hmm.
I'm looking at him unhappy. I'm seeing what it's doing to him. So
Hmm.
even though it hurt me to break it off, I knew I had to because he wasn't happy. And on top of him not being happy, our friendship was starting to tear apart. And that was hurting me even more.
Hmm.
So I knew like this not working. So I had to actually encourage him because he didn't want to go. He was like, how am I going to get with you with the kid, give you more kids, and then leave you? What type of man does something like that? All because I'm not happy. So I had to convince him that
Mm.
this is the best for us, even though that is not what I wanted, like at all. Like I was tearing up inside.
And his unhappiness, was it because he wanted to explore more, or was it
Yeah, he
because of
felt,
the
I
difference?
think what it was he didn't have any children. He got with me with kids. We had a lot of kids real fast. So he went from a young man with no kids to a full family.
Mhm.
And to me, I feel like someone who didn't have no training. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. He has no training. He has no one to navigate him through this. He had no examples to help him. Okay, look, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. He was just going in the wind blindly.
Mhm.
So I'm watching him being unhappy. I'm watching him like stressed, not sleeping. I'm watching him juggling all of this. So even though it was hurting me, him being hurting me more than me being hurt. I don't know if that makes sense.
Mhm. I get it.
So
I get
I
it.
was
Well,
like,
I would say this. I would say, of course, now that I know, me, my unhappiness was me being selfish. That's what it was. It was me being selfish and not looking at her feelings, not looking at our situation, not thinking about our children. I was just thinking about myself, you know, and um and it was selfish of me. Of course, I realized that after I almost lost her. I realized that, which was stupid, but you live and learn.
Yeah, that takes humility, and I think that's something I think a lot of people will hear in the story if they have open ears and an open heart. I see a lot of brothers who may know that they have a great woman with them, and I'm pretty sure you can attest to this. That a lot of men, in their pride and their ego, would be like, "Ah, let her go. I don't need her. There's plenty fish in the sea," and they'll just let their behavior determine the outcome instead of them allowing humility to sink in and to go back and get that woman like you did. And so I want to talk about something that Christina just said, which I also, Christina, I want you to answer this question as well, about your background, because she said there was a lack of training there to get you prepared for being a father, for being a husband. And so I want to kind of dig into background history about your family, your upbringing. What was your childhood like? Because a lot of our brothers and women, brothers and sisters, all of us alike, are struggling from broken homes. And so at some point, it's obvious that it affected your ability to now become a part of a willing participant in your own family structure. So what was your experience as a child that gave you this, kind of lack of maturity or this lack of desire to be there?
Well, I would say, I did grow up in a broken home. My mother wasn't married at the um when I was young. She
Mm,
ended up being married in my late teenage years. Um, so I grew up without a father figure for a long time. So I didn't really know like what that looked like, So I think that does play a role. That does play a role in it. And, thank God for showing me now, what to do. Um, but yeah, that does play a role. I didn't have a father figure. Mostly had my grandmother, my aunts, and my mom, basically women. So
mm,
you don't have a father there to really teach you like how to be a man, how to be a leader when I'm supposed to be the leader. And basically I wasn't leading my family the
your
right
tribe.
way.
Where
Yeah,
did
I
it come
wasn't
from?
leading.
Where did you get it from? Can you talk to the brothers just heart to heart real quick and just talk to them about where to get it from? Because most of these brothers are in the same predicament. Really, like I said, all men and women. But for the brothers, I would like for you to at least give them a note on where to get it from if you didn't get it from your father.
Well, I'll say first of all, I give all it sounds cliche, but I give all the glory to the Most High. I'll say I
Mm,
got it from him, and seeing brothers that actually have honor that I was around, that in the faith, that have a healthy relationship with their wife and their children. I started seeing that and seeing how it lasts, seeing how they respect and value their wife, as well as their children. Um, and I was like, you know what, I want that. And one thing, me growing up without a father, I always said to myself, I made this promise when I was like, I think 12 years old. I made this promise. I said, I don't want my children growing up without a father. 'Cause I knew
Mm,
struggles we went through. Um, and yeah, and that's what I wanted. And not to say that I'm not in love with my wife. I love my wife. Like she's awesome. And but I think family is very important.
I agree. So your mentors came around you and
Yeah.
kind of, demonstrated for you. So I'm glad that you said that because I think it's something that our brothers really need to be intentional about. And before I go to Christina, I'm going to just say this because it requires intention. I'm pretty sure that when you, found that you kind of had this personal resolution that you did not want to raise your family this way, you had to go and get around people like that had to go to church or you had to find a study group or you had to be in a Bible study or you had to go somewhere, barbershop, anywhere where you could be around like-minded individuals. And I'm pretty sure that once you got plugged in with them, it became an intentional growth experience, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Christina, let's talk about your background because I know women, we typically have training from birth about how to take care of these kids, how to,
Yeah,
tend to the home, how to be a wife. That's our training from the very beginning, father or not.
yeah.
And so I want to understand how you were able to cope with his self-proclaimed lack of maturity because I know you probably as a woman had been groomed to be mature and that's why they always say well women mature faster than men but I think
Mhm.
it's because we're being trained to keep a home, we're being trained to be responsible for the children, we're being trained for these things. So how did you cope with the lack of maturity and how did you love him through his growth period?
Well, I'm gonna answer it in two parts. First, I
Mhm,
want to answer the last question you gave me because it goes with this question. You asked, was there a disconnect where I ended up saying, "Well, this is not the person I want to be with," and then
mhm,
I want to answer the question you gave
uh-huh,
about, what was my background like. So
mhm,
there was a point where I was like, "This wasn't the man I wanted." It was when we broke up.
mm,
What happened was I was trained as a young girl. My father used to wake me up 5, 6 in the morning and say, "You're going to be a mother. You're going to be a wife. You need to know how to cook. You know how to clean. You know how to do
mhm,
this. You know how to do that." So he taught me at a very young age. He didn't teach me. He more or less fussed at me and made me do it. So I kind of stumbled through, but he did like put instill that in me that this is what a woman does. My father was very old school. So um, when I finally separated from him, I don't know. I felt a crazy freedom. Like,
mm.
oh snap! Like,
Yes.
wait a minute. Wait a minute. I ain't got nobody telling me you can't wear this. I ain't got nobody telling me you got to, I don't want you hanging out with that person, this person. Oh shoot. So I was a little wild. I ain't gonna lie, them 11 months. I was having fun. I was hanging out
Mhm,
with my girlfriends. He was trying to pursue me. He really was. He was like, look, I screwed up. I want to
mhm.
be with you. And I was just like, boy, I'm
Gave it up.
free. Like, I'm
Okay, you
free.
gave it up. Now
I'm
you got to
free.
live with it.
You ain't want to be with me. I'm free. What are you talking about? And I had women around me at the time that were pushing me to stay that way. I
Mm,
actually had a really close friend. I'm not going to say no names.
mhm,
But when my husband proposed to me, she was mad. She said, I'm selfish, that I'm only thinking about her, and that I'm basically letting him take me away from her as her friend. Yeah, because she felt like I wouldn't have no more time to hang out with her. It was the craziest thing. Later on, she told me she was just jealous because she had been with her boyfriend for so long, he never proposed. And for us to break up and then for him to come back and propose, she really felt like, so that I want to point that part out to say this. There was a disconnect. All glory to God. And for him to keep pursuing me because he could have just gave up and said, you know what? I did everything. I tried to do counseling. I proposed to her. I said I was sorry. I told her everything I did. I'm putting time in, and she just will not. He could have just gave up. He really could have, and he wouldn't probably have no problem finding another woman. But he held on and fought for me, and I think him fighting for me and me watching the other women around me telling me, girl, you don't need him. And I'm looking at how miserable they were. They ain't got
mm,
no man. They sitting at home alone. They got me watching their kids because they ain't even got no babysitter. I
mm.
realized I don't want to be like that. I
Okay,
want to. I want to have somebody that I could go home to.
for real. Yeah.
So, and in the way he was treating me, it made me realize, yeah, I want to be back with him. Now, once we got back together, yes, I was trained at a very young age to this is how you got to take care of men. Is what you got to do. But I was told not trained. I'm saying that because they just yelled at me and like pushed me to do things, but they never really taught me how to do it. So I learned a lot of stuff incorrect or not all the way the right way. So it was a lot of hiccups being his wife in the beginning years because I knew like I wasn't taught. I don't know if it makes sense.
Mm,
So it did take a little bit, but I knew though what I needed to do. And it was easy for me to be patient with him because I guess when we got back together, seeing how hard he wanted me and how hard he fought for me and how much he loved me, it allowed me to be patient. To say, you
mm,
know what, he's not there yet. That's fine because it's stuff that I'm not there with yet, and
mhm.
that's okay. We're not gonna always be there where we should be for each other, and that's what made me realize that. So yeah.
I love this. Okay, so now we're gonna just go with the natural progression of your relationship because now what you just said makes me want to understand, Brother Ron. What was your main priority when it came to your growth in the home? Because a lot of, like I said, a lot of brothers out here are struggling with ego and they don't think nothing is wrong with them. They think they know everything. They think that everything they're doing is right. They think they woman should just be happy all the time and should never complain and should never hold them accountable. Because as soon as they say that I don't like this, baby, you got to change. A man will get upset and you trying to change me. You trying to force me to be somebody that I'm not. And you trying to this and that. So what was in your humble mirror reflection of yourself? What were you saying to the man in the mirror that, man, I got to get this together, that together? What were those priority items that you knew had
Well,
to change?
well, I would say having children helped out a lot. Because I started to realize it's no manual, you know.
Right.
It's definitely no manual. Um, and people raise their children certain ways, and this, that, and the third. That's why you definitely you have to have something good to look at to raise your children and lead your family the right way. And I knew that I didn't want to fail my family. I don't want to fail my children. I don't want them to go to school and doing something to make me look bad. Because a child do something wrong, they're gonna look at the parents like, who are their parents? You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to disappoint my wife, and of course, I don't want to disappoint people around me, of course, the Most High. But I think that really what it is. I don't want to fail my family, so that make me work harder.
Mhm.
Um, that makes me look at everything before I make a decision, and think about my wife. Know what I'm saying? It being a leader doesn't mean that your wife doesn't have no input. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Being a leader is knowing that something go down, you're gonna take the brunt of everything. And knowing that made me you know, be more prepared. I'll say that.
So I hear you saying that fatherhood was your priority. I hear you saying that consideration was your priority. I hear
Hmm.
you saying that decision making was your priority. Those
Hmm.
were the things that you were pretty much putting at the top of your list. And I want to know about how you allowed your wife to participate in your growth because like I said before, a lot of brothers have this egotistical pride problem and they don't want their wives to look like she's being a mom, like, oh, you ain't my mother, you can't tell me what to do, stop trying to change me. So did you have that same type of conflict in your growth process, or were you welcoming to your wife when she had an opinion about something that you needed to change? If she would come to you and say, baby, I really don't like this, did you reject that or accept it? How was her participation in your growth?
Well, I would say in the beginning of our marriage, every now and then we would go through that because I think sometimes we forget men and women are different. You know what I'm saying? Um
Mhm.
and I don't think your man wants to be treated like he's your son. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
And
We need a balance there. We need to have a balance. So,
yeah,
yeah.
and
How
vice versa, and vice
Mhm.
versa. Your wife don't want to be treated like she's your child or somebody you that works for you. You know.
Right. Mhm.
So when she would like tell me this and tell me that, and I felt like she was trying to make we didn't go through that all the time, but sometimes I felt like she was trying to make it like I'm her son or something. I'll be like look, listen here. Know what I'm saying? You
Mhm.
know,
Calm down, right. I mean,
Exactly
but
what he
I'm
was
gonna
saying.
work for you.
I
You
And I
know.
was a manager at the time. And I remember one time he
Yeah.
said,
So
I'm not your employee.
yeah,
okay.
yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because I think the job sometime with very successful women, like of course my wife, she did very good in the field she worked in. She became a general manager, and of course I'm definitely proud of her. But I think sometimes we can take stuff home, and
Mhm.
you want to put that in your relationship, and that could mess it up. And I think she done that a few times. I was like, look, babe, you're a very smart woman and all that, but bro, you can't be bringing that stuff home. You know what I'm saying? So I think you have to be a balance and realize that the position in the home, so it don't get messed up.
That balance. I get it. So I think where a lot of our relationships kind of get into this battle is right there at that point where it is where the balance is required, where it is I will listen to you, but if you're speaking to me in this way, you know, and I think what I hear is that you all figured out a way to be able to communicate with each other. Because if there is something that needs to be said, it can be said. It's just how you're saying it, and I think that might be one of the biggest overarching principles in communication that get lost in the sauce because a lot of sisters are used to having to defend themselves. You know, in many situations, what'll happen is if a woman want to come to her husband, and Christina, let me know if I'm wrong, a woman will come to a man and be like, "Oh, I have like in a defensive position. You doing this and you doing that, and I'm not your slave, and I'm not your this, that, and the third." But instead of coming and saying, this is something that's becoming a problem to me, I want to talk about it. But the balance is very delicate because if a woman comes to a man very calm and quiet and cool and collective, he has to know how to reciprocate that in order for the balance to be maintained. Because if a man comes or if a woman comes and says, I don't like this, or this is how I'm feeling, and then the man snaps on her for even having an issue, then it becomes, off balance in that respect. So, whenever you guys are doing this growth period, Christina, talk to me about what it looked like for you as a woman who is, like I said, going through this growth period. You're allowing your husband to figure it out. You have your level of maturity, and you're sitting there looking at the relationship from a, I guess, a bird's eye view. How is it that you are um, giving him the space without feeling deprived? I guess is what I want to kind of get to is a lot of times when a woman is waiting for a man and for lack of a better word, we wait for a man while he's trying to get it together. But in the meantime, we feel as though we are in this position of I'm your kind of like your servant. I am a little bit deprived because while you're growing and working on the things that you're working on, there's a lot of reciprocation that I'm not getting. So were you okay with that? Did it bother you at all for him to be growing while you're just kind of waiting for him to get there?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. In the beginning, um, I actually thought that that's what was happening. I
Mhm,
actually thought that he was not where I was because I already had a child before. Like I said,
mhm,
it's a lot of things I had already experienced and did. I already had my family already instilled in me. This is what you're supposed to do as a woman. So I thought that what the case was. I really did think that I was waiting for him.
mhm,
But it wasn't just that I was waiting for him. He was actually waiting for me as well. And what I mean by that is this. There will be times where I would come to him, like you said, you come to him and you say, hey, look, I don't like when you do this. I remember in the beginning of our relationship, I used to be like, listen, I don't mind doing the things I do for you. I actually enjoy doing it. Any of my friends will tell you, I love ironing his clothes. I love making his lunch. I love cooking for him. I love fixing his clothes in the restroom. As soon as he come out, is sitting there for him. I don't mind doing it. I enjoy doing it for him because I know how it makes him feel, and it makes me feel good that it makes him feel good. But when a person doesn't tell you how much they appreciate it, sometimes you can feel like they don't appreciate you. So what I would do is I would never say anything. I would just keep it to myself. But then when he would come to me about something that I'm doing that I need to correct, that's when I will go to him with what I didn't like that he did. And when
mm,
you're doing that type of communication, what person is going to receive it well? If
mm,
you never complain about anything, but now I'm complaining about something that you're doing, and now you want to take the time now to complain about something I did.
Mhm.
All I'm hearing is you're not taking accountability for your actions.
Right. You just want to
So,
flip the script back on me.
which is not what I was doing.
Not
But
consciously.
that's what I was doing.
Right. It wasn't conscious. It was just happening because you were like, look, if we're in the mood for complaining
There
today,
we go. Let's just do it. Like, you
let's
figure
go
it out. I'll
for
figure
it.
it out. Yeah. So I had to learn. Like
Yeah.
I had to learn, Christina, do not hold stuff in.
Mhm.
If there's something bothering you, tell him. I
Mhm.
had to learn that it's a time and place and a way that you got to approach a man. It just is what it is. I know
Mhm.
that they call us emotional, and we are emotional. Women are emotional, but I do feel like men also have emotions as well.
Mhm.
Frustration is an emotion, anger is an emotion, being impatient with certain things. I feel like all of those trigger from emotions.
And since she
So,
brung that up, I want to point something out. Since she brung that up, I think it was our first year of marriage. We had went to counseling. We didn't need it. We was doing okay, but we decided because somebody invited us, we decided to go to the counseling, and it was like a group of 20, probably 20 couples that was married, and we realized a lot of the people had the same problems. When they would the married couples when they would have a fight, the wife or whatever, or husband, vice versa, they would go to their parents' house and they'll tell their parents what's going on with their spouse. And the parents, remember that's their child, will end up disliking the spouse. Now it's a problem with their marriage. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I started realizing, man, it was in that group we had in that counseling session, it was probably at least 10 of the couples was going through that. And I was like, bro, you know what? If we go through something, let's handle it together. Let's like not go somewhere else, go to your father's house or whatever, um, and try to be on the couch and all this stuff. Let's work it out. And that's what we do. Um, I don't think we ever go to sleep, angry. We work it out, we talk. Um, we're like best friends. I know all the tea at her job, you know what I'm saying?
That's right. He like, what's the sequel? What's the tea for the day? What she do?
I listen, you know what I'm saying? So the thing is, yeah. So the thing is, I think sometimes when you invite some people in your marriage environment, you cause more problems. And I realized that had a lot to do with destroying people's marriage, and I didn't want that. I learned that in a counseling session, so I wanted to bring that part out.
I like that because it does take for some examples of destruction. When you start to see it in other people, it makes you very aware, self-aware in your own relationship, not to go down that path. I think it was Method Man. He was on a talk show, a day show, not too long ago, and they asked, "How have you been successfully in your marriage for so long, for these many years?" And he said, "I don't talk to people about my marriage." He
Mhm.
said, "I don't talk to nobody about my marriage. Whatever happens between me and my spouse is between me and her."
Yeah,
And that's it.
exactly.
We deal with our own problems, and that's what it is. But so the question I want to ask now is kind of about a little bit about this communication and a little bit having to do with how love it gets extended from one spouse to the other because this is sort of like a dichotomy. It's like a catch 22 in the black community because and it might even be just my question personally because I might want to know for my doggone self if a woman wants or needs something from her husband, and I want to hear this from both of you how you go about this. Does she ask for the love that she needs, or does she just simply accept and be happy with the love that she's getting? What would a man from a man's perspective, what
Mhm.
would a man appreciate the most? And I'm just of course it's a bit have to be a general statement because there's going to be, a duality there because all men are not the same. But if you had to, kind of speak for men right now, just from a brother's perspective, what should a woman do if she needs love? Does she ask or does she just let you do it?
You mean emotionally?
Yes, especially emotionally, because a woman's needs in our hearts, we take things a certain way. Like I never forget, and y'all excuse me because I be paying attention. Christina, you said one time that sometimes it hurts you if you get your hair done or something like that, and your husband doesn't notice. That
Mhm.
you're taking it a certain way in your heart. And so, in order for you to take it a different way, you need to express that to your husband to ask him to love you in another way so that your heart is not feeling this kind of negative or low vibration. So what I'm asking Ron is that in that situation or any other, if the woman's uh perception of a particular situation is negative, or she's not taking it the way you're giving it, how does she come to you to ask for love in a different way?
Hmm. Okay.
Let me know if you want me to rephrase.
No, no, I got you. The
Mhm.
what I would say, the thing is, to have a successful marriage, you have to be selfish. If I'm saying it right,
Selfless, I got you.
yeah. Basically, you can't just be thinking about just yourself, right? Um, I would say don't come. I would say it's best not to come both people. Don't come in like a condescending or like angry. I think like talking, you know, because if you come to somebody like you're already upset, you're already messed up the whole mood. Know what I'm saying?
So are you
I
saying
think
like she should come to you? Is that what you're saying? But come a
yeah,
certain way?
definitely, definitely. You have to if you're going through something, especially with your spouse. I think you definitely have to talk about it. And you should be able to talk about it. You marry that person for a reason, so definitely talk about it. But be careful how you come at people. It's some men that's really laid back. That accept, aggression from women. But I'll tell you right now, men don't like stuff like that. They'll
Mm.
probably take it because they love you or whatever the case may be. But I see it from other couples. Men don't like stuff like that, and they may not answer or act a way that you would like them to. So just come in your femininity, and they will receive it better.
Mm. Ooh, okay. I'm glad you said that. What would you say about the brother that if a woman comes to ask for whatever she needs and he automatically feels that he can't satisfy her, or she's never happy, or he takes it in a negative way just because she's asking, no matter how she asks? He might say you're trying to change me, or you just I can't never do enough. What would you say to that brother about how he's handling his woman and what he might be able to do to change his perception about when she comes to ask and when she's in need of?
Hmm. Um, I don't know. I mean, everybody's relationship's different, but
Mhm.
I would say that right there, they probably need counseling. Definitely, or just sit down before you go to counseling. Definitely sit down with your spouse and being like, it seems like talk to them, tell them it seems like everything I do you're not happy with. Um, and I think that husband too, he should hear his wife out because it could be some things that you actually are doing. You know what I'm saying? So you can't act like as if she's just nagging. If she's always complaining about something, 9 out of 10 times, if she's giving 10 complaints, probably 5 of it is true. You know what I'm saying? So listen.
I say six. I say at least six. Give my sister six.
Yeah, listen, because she might be right.
Sometimes it be
And
the same complaint, just said different.
and it might be something simple. You know what I'm saying? It might be something simple. Like I done things to get my wife upset. I might talk to her in a tone she don't like, and she's like, "Look, Ron, I don't like when you talk to me like that. I don't like it. I feel like it's disrespectful." And I'll probably be mad at that time. And then I realize I did that to her.
Mm.
I'll calm down. And I'll come back later. I'll apologize. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's you gotta realize that you need to respect each other, and that's how it's gonna work. You
Mhm.
know?
Christina, do you ever give him a break? Like you say, look, I've probably not asked this man this 15 times. Let me not ask him today. Let me not say nothing
I
about
had
it today.
Reese. I had to learn.
Yeah.
I'm good now.
You give him a
Axel, I'm
break.
good now, right, Ron? I got a good balance, pretty much, right? I
Mhm.
had to learn, Reese, because
I
let me
said
tell you
once in a
something,
month.
girl. Once I stopped holding stuff in, because remember I told you I used to hold it in,
Hmm.
and then I realized you can't hold it in.
Hmm.
Like if you feel something, you have to say it because then you let it out when y'all
Well,
argue
since
and
you
it's
say
not
that,
you.
some stuff you probably should because you don't want to nag all the time too. You don't
Right.
want to be nagging all the
I
time.
got a good balance, Ron. I
Nobody
did get
want
a
to hear
good
people
balance.
nag all the time.
I
Huh?
did get a good balance. I thought I got a good
No, no, you
balance.
do. No, no, you do.
Yeah,
I'll
I
say
figured it
that.
out, Reese. I figured it
Yeah.
out. It took a while. I went from not doing it to like doing it, like constantly, and he was getting really irritated and agitated,
Yeah.
and the communication was horrible because again, I'm so frustrated. I'm always letting it out now. I didn't know how to maintain a girl. I was just everything. Like,
Mhm.
I don't like when you talk to me like that. I don't like when you don't tell me before you did that. I don't like, it was a lot. I was just
Mhm.
hammering him, hammering him, hammering him.
Mhm.
And he did feel like at one point, like, bro, why did you even marry me if I can't make you happy? Like, bro, like everything I seem to do, you think is a problem. And one day he gave a list of it all. And I took it in and I was like, oh my goodness. And a
Ooh,
lot of it was true,
she was
but it
like,
was a
"Oh,
lot. It was like a lot.
I said that. I said that too."
So I had to realize I gotta balance it. I have to balance it. I gotta know when to pick my fights. I gotta
Mhm.
know when to pick my battles.
Mhm.
Everything doesn't have to be, oh, I don't like this. It doesn't have to be, because he started telling me things that I do that he didn't tell me and I didn't realize it.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, snap. And he was like, oh, yeah, so you didn't know, huh? Oh, so you thought you was the only one that had problems here and complaints, lady? And I was like,
Right.
dang.
Well, see, I think
So,
what is really most important about this part of the discussion is that we remember that love is going to typically take care of whatever the affliction is. And so
because
if
we want to make each other happy.
exactly, and
Desire
if
to make each other happy.
I agree. So it's like, if a husband or a wife is coming to the spouse and saying, this is a need that I need you to fulfill, it got to be something if I'm speaking on it. And it must be the fact that, okay, now that I've transmitted this data to you, I'm going to trust that you heard me and that at some point you're going to address. And I think where women get into the nagging part of the whole, scenario is
When we don't see
when we
results,
don't see that
we
change.
don't see the change. Yeah, we feel like you
If
didn't
I don't
take what
said
I
it once,
said. Yeah.
yeah,
But I
and
had
then
to learn, I had to watch him and see. And when I started noticing that
mhm,
he was,
yeah,
everything
doing it.
wasn't when I wanted, and
Yeah,
everything wasn't how I wanted it. But it
right.
was a lot of times that I literally saw,
Yeah, some
oh my
effort.
goodness,
There
wait a
was
minute.
effort being made.
And that made me say, yeah, okay. And then I also knew I had my issues to work on, and he was being patient. So it's
Mhm.
like, wow, so he's being patient with me. I need to be patient with him. And we just constantly kind of move like that. Like,
Right.
okay, let's be patient with each other. Let's express what we're going through and let's take what we're saying seriously. Like,
Absolutely.
men have, let me tell you something. The question you asked them was women's needs, right?
Mhm.
And we said emotional, right? The
Mhm.
thing is, I think a lot of time as women, we don't realize that men need that too.
Right. They
And
sure.
men don't express it like they should.
Mm.
And it was probably the entire time we've been married, all these years, maybe once or twice he expressed to me um, that he wanted more physical attraction towards him. Like he wanted me to initiate it more because
Mhm.
I wasn't. And I
Mhm.
wasn't doing it because I didn't feel good in my skin at that time, put on weight, wasn't happy with myself. So I shut myself up. I never denied him, but I never initiated it. And the thing
Mhm.
is, you think a man wants to constantly, the thing is, I think we feel like because they're men, like, yeah, they're men. But it got to the point where he had to tell me, like, listen, do I always have to initiate it? I would like you sometimes to come and give me a kiss. I would
Mhm.
like you sometime to come and cuddle next to me. Like, I want you to do that sometime. He's only done it probably twice in over a decade, but he
Mhm.
has done it. But who knows how many times he felt that way? I don't know. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So I think we both had to learn that with each other.
It makes perfect sense to me because, and what I think with the gender wars that we're having back and forth, it's a cultural thing, because our mothers, were also a part of the independent woman mentality, that culture of, I'm not taking none of your trash. I'm not dealing with anything that doesn't serve me. I'm the prize. Am this and that. And we get, women, we have our heads puffed up quite a bit, to a larger than life size, of also dealing with pride and ego. And it trickles down to how we speak to our men, how we talk to our, how we, just handle the energy back and forth. And so, I want to ask about the happy part now that we've talked about, how you're dealing with the issues. um when Okay, let me see if I can pose this question in a way that I think people will be able to receive it the way I intend. So happiness is something that we have to have coming from our internal vessel. It has to come from inside who we are. So, are there ever any times in your relationship when you can just pinpoint when your happiness just took over any issue? It just kind of took over and was like, you know what? I'm too happy to have this problem with you right now. We getting ready to go steamroll right on over whatever that was because I'm enjoying this. I'm happy about this. I'm not getting ready to allow whatever little negative, especially outside stuff. With people like you were saying, people might be chit-chatting on this side about your relationship, but y'all were just way too happy to let that penetrate. I want first Ron talk to me about it, then Christina, you take
Go, Ron.
take
So
it.
happy. You steamrolling.
Steamroll right over that problem. And I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be something like outside. It could just be even an internal something, where you might have had doubts inside yourself where you're like, I don't like at the time where you were saying I may not want this, but your friendship was the thing that came and kind of stole the show. Like, you sitting back looking at your wife and you're like, dang, I actually kind of like her. I actually kind of dig this. And you were just too happy to allow your doubts, too happy to allow your friends. Because I know you got one positive friend. I don't know if you got any other negative friends. I know Christina does. But just any
I'm
time
his
where just
only friend.
yeah. But just any time where you have noticed that you have now a thriving family, you have a happy wife, you have a happy life, you are, traveling, fulfilling your dreams, you guys are growing. Like, talk to me about the happy times that you are, kind of bankrolling in your memory bank.
Um, well, I'll say when I would work and I'll say the simple things and I think if a lot of people could take from this is the simplest things. I will go to work, right, and I'll go with my lunch bag. Um, and my coworkers, right, they'll notice I always have, food prepared. I'm not buying from the vending machine or anything, right? And then they'll be like, bro, you got cooked food again? Like, and I'm like, bro, your wife ain't prepare food. They're like, nah, bro. Like, bro, this like the fifth time I saw you, and you got cooked food again. Like, bro,
It's cool, baby.
they
Cook
started to
food.
get mad. They were joking, but then I was realizing I was like, you know what? I know my both of us, got a lot going on, but she took time to do that. And other I didn't even probably even notice it that much, but brothers noticing and it made me realize, man, I got a great wife that she could prepare this for me. And these other men, some of them got wives too. And you know, I know everybody got to work or stuff, but she with all the stuff she got going on, she still took the time to do that for me. And these other men, even they seeing it, even though they don't know her like that, they seeing it, and it make me realize, man, I'm definitely blessed, man, that to have a wife that's so considerate, that makes sure I have a meal while I'm working. And I try because of that, it makes me go harder and makes me want to be more considerate of her and things that she do for me. And so I want to do more for her. I would say that.
Mm. And what about you, Christina? What are your happiest memories of, just seeing, just having, looking in retrospect, just looking back, or even looking at their present moment, just in the present, where you looking around like, dang, I got a great situation. Like, oh, this is great.
So I have a lot of friends around me that have gotten divorced, like a lot. Both of us, we know them, like
Mhm,
know them, and it was getting kind of scary because
mhm,
I'm like, if they didn't make it, Lord have mercy. Like I
mhm,
was getting kind of scared,
mhm,
but then I had to sit back and I had to evaluate my relationship, and I just started thinking about things like, how when I get down on myself, like about my weight. So people don't know I have 7 kids, right? And I've gained weight up and down over the years. And I know my husband would prefer me to be in my slim state. Like he likes my slim state, right? And it'll be times where even though he would prefer that, he'll never make me feel less desirable.
mhm,
Crazy because I know me. I like a man in shape. I'm just gonna say it, which is, I don't know why people say, "Ah, you ain't in shape, but you want someone in shape." I like a man in shape. I like a man that smells good, smells nice. So he keeps himself up. He keeps himself smelling nice. So if he all of a sudden got really big and stinky, I will have to fake the funk. I'm not gonna be happy about it. I'm gonna be like, baby, you look so good today. But he genuinely doesn't make me feel, though I know I need to do it for my health and stuff, he still makes me feel desirable. He still makes me feel like he loves me. He still makes me feel like he wants me. Um, he actually asks me about my days. Like literally, I would come home and he'll say, "So, how was your day?" And he's literally waiting for me to tell him about my
Right,
day.
you trying to get that tea, girl.
He cares
The
about my day.
the sequel, he need the sequel.
So it was things like that. And then I'm listening to all our friends that broke up and they're telling me all these things. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know what that is.
Mhm.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what you're talking about. And it made me realize, like, it would not that since we got married, I haven't had any issues, neither one of us with like infidelity or anything like that. But even through that, because of the love that we've built over a decade now, it made me like feel like what you said, steamroll. Like there's nothing. I don't care. Infidelity, I don't care. Like not that I'm saying he would do that or I would do that, but we're so strong at this point just because of the happiness and the joy that he brings me. It's nothing I can see that can stop us. Like nothing at all.
I love it. So, okay, now we talked about just the happiness. I want to talk about another key pillar of relationships because we talked earlier in the conversation about how there was a little small bout of, wanting to explore and infidelity and all of those common issues that happen in relationships. So, how was the trust factor introduced into the relationship after that happened? Was it solely based on the fact that you were friends and you were able to trust him because you saw him come back and saw him pursue you, or did you have to build trust from another source, or did you just have to like kind of bite the bullet and be like, you know what, I might not trust him, but I'm just gonna pretend like I do so I can keep going?
I'm gonna be honest, it was two things. The first thing was he was honest with me. Like
Mhm.
brutally honest. Girl, I didn't even want to hear no more. I said, okay,
Mhm.
stop, I'm done. And he's like, no, I'm telling you. I'm like, I don't want to know anymore. I'm good.
Yeah,
The
don't.
fact that he was like honest, he really was honest. He said, look, this is what I did. This is why I
Mhm.
did it.
Mhm.
He was honest. And the second part was one day he told me, he said, you know, the reason I'm faithful to you, the reason why, I do everything that I do is not just because I love you and I care about you and all that stuff. It's because I have such a love and a zeal for God, my
Mhm.
purpose in life to serve him, that I
Mhm.
don't want to disappoint him. Like I do not want to disappoint my father. I want him to be proud of the way that I choose to live my life, treat my wife, raise my kids. And when I looked at his zeal, he was dead serious. At first, I was kind of mad, like, hold up. So it's not because I'm pretty, like. But then I had to
How
think
you being
about it.
honest, right?
I had to think about it and I said, wait a minute, it's because he feels like it is a high power over him that's holding him accountable for his actions to the point where he's gonna treat me right. I said, you know what? How can I doubt his trust? How can I ever question it? And there were times where things arrived where some people would say, yeah, girl. But I was like, no, no way. Nope. And even if it did, he's gonna tell me.
Mhm.
Like it didn't matter.
Ooh, all right now, brother Ron, that's a great segue for me to get you back in the conversation, brother, because trust, honesty. Ugh, brother's got a real bad problem with that honesty situation. So I need you to talk to him because this is so. Oh, brothers on a you see, I'm like, I just got flustered because I'm like, this trust is.
Maurice, he was brutally honest. It was too much. I don't need it no more. I was like,
I
I'm done.
mean, but what is so beautiful about that to me is the amount of care a man has to have. Now, I feel like if a man is going to be brutally honest with me like that, it's because he cares. So I want to ask Brother Ron, what, like, what kind of resolution did you have to make with yourself to buckle down and say, I'm about to be brutally honest with this woman, even if it breaks her heart? Because I hear brothers all the time say that women cannot handle the truth. And so they choose to withhold it because they feel like women can't handle it.
Now,
Like she
Ron, give her
just
the
said
two
she
part.
couldn't,
Give
bro.
her the
That
two
she
It's
just,
part.
it's it's,
Give
it's
her the
two
two
part
part. Yeah.
actually.
okay.
It's two part. Well, I'll say most men, and I'll say most men and women are attracted to like the players, the especially younger people, the street dudes, whatever. Um, a lot of them lie to women because they actually care about them. They don't want to hurt their feelings. To be honest with you,
Hmm.
there's two parts. So they lie because they don't want to hurt their feelings, and of course, another is a selfish part too. They want to do what they want to do. But I started to realize that when you're honest, when you're upfront, you could actually get more by being real. I started realizing that as I started being more real um with with women and my wife, um that you could get more out of it. And now you ain't got to duck and hide, right? So
Thank you.
yeah, now you ain't got that because you already said what it is. So I
Yeah.
think we need to understand how to be like be real men. Be real men. Tell your spouse whatever situation is, what it is. Now you can stand up on what you said because it's true.
Hmm.
You know what
That's
I'm saying?
it.
So and I'm not saying this for brothers to do this. Like for instance, well, you know what? I'm not even gonna bring that up. Forget it. But
Oh,
anyways,
come on
um,
now. Come
Always
on
do
now.
that, Reese. Reese, he always do that. Reese, he does this
We
all
can
the
handle
time.
it. We can handle the
He
truth.
be
Come
bringing
on now.
stuff and then he
nah,
pulls back. I be
it's,
hurting.
Go ahead. We
I
can
don't
handle
want
it.
to. I don't want brothers to be doing the wrong thing, so I'm not gonna
Oh,
bring
I
it up.
see. Okay, I see what you're saying. It might be too much power for immature.
Yeah,
I get it. I'll accept that because sometimes if you give a brother a cheat code, he'll take that to the hills and be like,
yeah,
"Oh,
yeah,
you gave me the cheat
definitely.
code." So yeah,
Hmm.
I respect that bit. But what I do want to make sure that I'm bringing out in this part of the conversation is how important it is to be honest, because we have situations where, like you said, a brother is doing more damage, ducking and hiding and dodging. If you care for the person and you actually want to gain their respect and actually maintain the respect, and maybe we should talk about that next, is that if you've lost and regained a person's respect, I've seen maybe on TV shows, for example, where a
Hmm.
woman might now require that she's got a tracking device on your phone in order to maintain her respect for you, or she's got to be able to read your text. You can't have a lock on your phone, or she need to be able to get the password to all your social media. Like, how are you going through all that to maintain trust, or is it literally just I'm being honest, I'm being upfront, and that's how I maintain the trust?
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Respect is a big thing for a man. You know what I'm saying? A big thing. Like if you're walking with your woman in the streets, right? You walking in with what Walmart, wherever,
Mhm.
and something a brother approach her the wrong way. Is it's most likely he gonna do something because you just disrespect his woman. By disrespecting his woman, you just disrespect him. So now he gotta handle business no matter whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So the thing is, brothers gotta understand, by being dishonest, um, you end up losing your respect. The women end up start not respect you no more because she can't trust you. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? So
Mhm.
she can't trust you. You being dishonest. You getting caught because first of all, women are great detectives. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So you getting caught. Now you losing respect. Now how can she trust you to be her leader? You see what I'm saying? That's
Mhm.
why, man, it's very important. Be a man. Look in the mirror and be like, yo, be a man. No matter what it is, even if you know it's gonna hurt her or whatever the case may be, tell her your true intentions for her. Like, are you really gonna marry this woman? Are you gonna play with her? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Are you just gonna sleep with her? Do you plan on being with her? Do you plan on being married to her in the future? Whatever the case may be. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah.
So when you are real, now you don't, just like I said earlier, you don't have to duck and hide. Then she can maintain respect for you. Once you lose that respect, you
It's
deserve
hard.
that.
Hard,
Yeah,
man.
you deserve, and you deserve it because it's like you ain't being real, and then now you demand respect. How you demanding respect when you ain't even respect yourself enough to be 100?
That's real. That is so real. I wish that a whole bunch of more brothers could be on this line to hear that, because what I'm telling you is that I've seen it in real time, in real life, where a man might say, "Oh, I expect you to be loyal," and then you turn around and they lying, like you said, ducking and diving and hodging. How you want me to be loyal to you in a situation like that? How do I submit or become obedient to your honor or things like that when this is the thing that you showing me? That's a lack of respect for yourself, and it doesn't translate. if you're telling a woman, "Oh, be respectful, let me lead you," and all this other stuff, and then I turn around and you lying like a child that's trying to, get stay out of trouble from his mom. And it's like,
Yeah, exactly.
lying is for kids. You lie to your mom when you don't want to get in trouble for, cussing outside at the teacher or whatever.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's about self-respect and being real with yourself, to the point where a woman can say, you know what, that's a real man because he was able to tell me that, and actually, you know, uh, tell me, give it to me straight. So one thing you said was about being intentional and a man's plans. Okay, now this is, I think, very key to having a happy woman. Okay, because women, we are typically all the way in our heads about our relationships and our marriage. We typically live in the future. And I'm not
Mhm.
saying men don't, but I know for a fact that we do. I
Mhm.
know for a fact that women live in the future. So when we are, kind of like, I know when Christina was talking about when she first saw you, I'm pretty sure she saw herself at that moment with the light shining over your head.
Yeah,
She saw
girl.
herself at that moment with your kids, with a ring on her finger, with a house,
Yep.
with a car, y'all
Uh-huh.
going on vacation. She saw the
Yep.
whole thing right in that moment.
Everything, girl. That's why I got them in the freezer.
And that's what
Yeah.
made her commit to it. She saw it right then and there. From the very beginning, she was planning the future and intentional about it. So I want to talk about what impact intentions have on a healthy relationship, because women are naturally inclined to be this way, but I think men sometimes struggle with the intention part. A lot of men live in the moment and they're like, oh, well, I mean, I'm happy for now, but I don't know what's happening in the future. We're just going with the flow. And so a lot of times there creates a disconnect there because women are typically wanting to plan the future. And so let me ask Christina about this, because I want to get you back into the conversation about when you started, your intentional plans. And I know you said it took a second for your husband to meet you there and to get at
Mhm.
that point of maturity where he could see where you were going with it. But how did his intentions sort of start layering into yours when he got there? And what did it make you, like how did it impact the flow of your happy relationship for him to now join you with the
Oh
intention?
yeah, once he began being honest with me, that's really
Mhm,
what he was like, and he's still the same. Like he's brutally honest about everything. Like my
mhm,
cooking, it don't matter what it is, girl. He tell me exactly how he feel, and sometimes I gotta be like, I didn't need to know that. I
mhm.
didn't need to know that.
Well,
He's like,
thank you.
well, yeah, I'm just saying, you know, I
Right,
didn't need to know. I didn't need to know. I didn't
right.
need
I
to
was
know.
good.
So once he was honest with me, and once he committed himself to me, it made me go harder, if that
Mhm,
makes sense.
mhm,
Because I'm not gonna lie, when a man isn't giving you certainty, not being honest with you, and you don't know where it's going,
mhm.
I hate to say it, you hold back.
You do.
You do. You hold
Mhm.
back, and
Naturally.
you don't put it all in there. You don't. And then I hear a lot of men say, "Well, how am I supposed to make you my wife if you're not doing wifely things?" And the woman is like, "Well, how am I supposed to do wifely things if I'm not your wife?" So it's like it's a disconnect, right?
Right.
So yeah, so once he committed to me, once he was honest
Prioritize
with
you.
me,
Yeah, we can make you
and
a priority.
yep, and I knew I could trust him,
Mhm,
and in regard and respecting him,
mhm,
I went in hard. I was like, okay, screw my friend. I don't care what she say. This may be my man. Kids, hey, respect him. He's the head of this house. We do everything together. What
mhm,
he say, go. Of course, we talk about everything, but I still let the kids know, like, yeah, what he say, go, so that they can realize we're on one front, right?
mhm.
So yeah, that's what it took. And once he was honest with me, once he told me what his intentions were and actually did it. He didn't just say it. He literally showed me like, this is my intentions with you. This is what I want. Yeah, I went in hard, girl. I was like, okay,
I
I
love it.
gotta step up. I gotta do what I gotta do.
I want to know what light bulb went off in your head, Brother Ron, about I got to be intentional with this woman because she ain't about to sit around here and keep on letting me just, kind of just, let her do all the work, because like I said, intention is not something that I think a lot of brothers, and when it comes, I'm going to tell you what it comes off as
Mhm.
in a sister's mind a lot of times. If a man is just kind of kicking around in your life, there's really no intentions, no plans being made. A lot of
Mhm.
sisters are in the frame of mind where it kind of makes her question or doubt what she's worth to that man. Because if you're not being intentional, and I'm just like every other woman that's in your life, where it's just, oh, you can be here today and gone tomorrow, and I wouldn't, I wouldn't miss a beat. Nothing would impact me because I haven't really invested in the future with you. I haven't really made any plan. I haven't really committed any part of my life, or just kind of sewn myself into you. So what, it's like a sister can easily feel like I must not be worth anything to this man. So my question is, with intentions, what was it that made you feel like, okay, or I guess I should say, what light bulb was it that went off in your head that made you feel like, okay, I need to start planning a future. I need to start kind of looking into where she's going with this, and what she wants to develop. Like, it could be something as simple as making a budget. It's something as simple as asking her, what's the 5-year plan? You know, what kind of intentions, or how does your becoming an intentional person, how does it look for you? What did you do?
Um, well, I would say looking at other people's mistakes and want to be a better man. I would say like um like I knew men that would say they're gonna do something and wouldn't do it, and even some of my friends, right? Or I did it. I was that man too, and I hate doing it now. And if like I hate saying I'm going to do something if I know I'm not going to do it. So I don't make promises that I know I'm not going to do, right? Because um you want to be looked at as a respectable man and a man of your word. So I'll say like my father don't want to bash him, but I got to keep it 100. He wasn't a man of his word. Like, as growing up, he would say, I'm going to come pick you up. And mind you, I grew up without a father. So when he did say he was going to come around, I was excited. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
my dad, you know what I'm saying? He said he would come around and he would never come around. You know what I'm saying? And that would hurt.
It
Like,
hurt.
you'll hear women talk about that because men don't really talk about stuff like what I'm saying now. But
Hmm.
it hurts too. Your father said he's going to come around. He's going to be on this day and then he never show up. 3 years later, he do it again. You're excited, and he doesn't do it. He do the same thing again, doesn't show up. So I was like, as I got older and realized what he was doing and knew know he wasn't a good man, I was like, yeah, I don't want to be that type of man. You feel me? I want to be
Right.
a man of my word. You feel me? So
Mm,
um,
mm.
so I
I
was
wanna,
saying,
I'm
yeah.
listening.
So I was saying, I make plans with my wife for so to make not just for me, for our family. So we'll have success. Basically, 5-year plan, as in what we're gonna teach. Like our son is 16 now, our oldest son, right? He's 16 now. We teaching them about finances. We teaching them, okay, at 21, you want to already know this. We putting you on our credit. We putting you on our credit line, so you already could build credit. So I'll give examples like that. So you could be in a good position that if you want to buy a home at that time, you already are prepared. You know what I'm saying? So I'll say
Yeah,
um, we make plans together. She have great ideas. I have great ideas, and we go about it that way. I don't just tell my wife and she don't have an input at because she's a woman. No, we don't do that.
I love that. I want to break it down into like a real common sense application of what you just said, because when I asked you about intentions, what I heard you translate that into was being a man of your word. And I don't think a lot of brothers really make that correlation, that keeping your word is what it means to be intentional. That's what it actually looks like
That's
to
what a
be
man really is.
right.
Keeping your
It's the
word.
word.
Me keeping your word is like, bro, you ain't being a man. You ain't being manly.
Agree. It's how can a woman rely on you? How can she trust you? How can she follow you if everything you say, she can't stand on it? If you're not standing on it, and it turns into a whole domino effect of losing trust, failing happiness. It turns into a whole long line of domino effects where their home is beginning to fall apart, because we know words create our reality.
Mm.
Intentions create reality. It's all about the frequency of your intention, and the intention behind your word that actually creates the reality that you live in. And so that's extremely powerful, to be able to make that correlation, that if I say be intentional about this relationship. If you tell me that you're here, tell me that you're willing, and you tell me that this is what you're going to do, that word should be as solid as a rock in your relationship if you're being intentional about it, because that is there was a man that I was dating, and I told him, your word is law to me, period. Whatever you say is what I'm taking at face value. I'm not questioning it. I'm not doubting it. I'm not rearranging it. It is law because you said it. Now, if you keep proving to me that everything you say is not law and that I shouldn't stand on it, can you blame me?
Don't blame her.
Can't blame me. Because if you keep proving me wrong, I didn't do that. You did. And so I think
Mm.
our brothers have to remember that this is an exercise in manifestation. When we're talking about planning for the future, being intentional, doing things with your spouse. And that was one thing I did want to ask you, if you guys have hobbies and things you do together. But this is kind of more important. We'll get to that in a second, because I want to make this point before I go back into the conversation. We're probably going to wrap up in about another maybe 10, 15 minutes. Is that being intentional, like I said, it has to do with the manifestations of your future, making investments of, just planting a seed of your words and saying, I'm going to not only say these things, but now I'm going to act on them in order to bring this manifestation to fruition. And you say, should a woman be a woman of her word? Yes, of course she should, because it's the same concept. She is also manifesting with her word. If she comes to her man and she says, I'm here to support you, I trust you, I will submit in areas where I'm able to follow your lead, or I will lead in places where I have leadership skills, and I would expect for you to follow me in those instances. So, yes, I think every person involved in any relationship, whether it be romantic or not, if we're talking about the future, if we're talking about intention, it should always be an exercise in honesty and obedience to yourself, being honest and real with yourself. What if a man is more emotional than the wife? What advice do you have for that man in the situation? Okay, well, this is actually a good question. It's a little, deviation, but what I would say is, and I'm going to actually, of course, let you both answer this question, but for an emotional man, if he's dealing with a woman that is unemotional, then I think it's just the same dynamic as the reverse. Is that whoever the unemotional person is just needs to be considerate, and the emotional person needs to find balance. But I will go ahead and allow you all to speak. Go ahead, Christina. How do you answer that question?
I'm agreeing with you. If you're an emotional person, man or woman, you need to find balance, and you're
Mhm.
not going to get it from that person. That's
Right.
the thing I think emotional people have to understand. You're looking for them to do something to help you balance your emotions. Like, if you would just do this, then I won't be so emotional. No, you cannot. Your emotions cannot be controlled by somebody else. That's the problem. Now, it's true that people can do things that can cause you to be emotional. This is true. But you got to get to a place where it's not as out of control. It's not as reckless. It's not as unbalanced. It has to be in a way where you're able to contain it. And those are things you're going to have to practice on.
Mhm.
Those are things you're going to have to communicate on, do research on. It's
Mhm.
like an active thing you're going to have to do. And the person that isn't emotional, you're
Mhm.
going to have to, as an emotional person, communicate with that person like, listen, when you do ABCD, it hurts me, and when it
Mhm.
hurts me, it affects our marriage, and our marriage is affected, it affects our children are affected, it affects our finances, it affects our you have to sometimes bring it as a logical layman term to a person that's not as emotional, because if
Mhm.
they feel like, well, your feelings hurt, you'll be all right, like, it's your
Mhm.
feelings. But if you show them that my feelings being hurt is a domino effect of all of this other stuff happening, then maybe it can, correlate in their mind as, okay, so I do need to be a little bit more considerate to what's going on with their emotions. But yeah, I basically agree with what you said.
Great. I want to kind of change the question just a little bit for Brother Ron, because I'm gonna say, to be in my observation, you don't strike me as an emotional man, but I
Not at
will.
all, girl.
So I will say, but I want to ask the question this way: was it your relationship with the Most High that would give you um sort of a sense of emotional like an emotional compass or an emotional intelligence? Or where did you get your, ability to tap into your emotions for you to be able to relate to your wife and her emotions?
Yeah, I'll say that. I'll say that. I'll say um examples, of course, in the scriptures and other men like true men of integrity and um that I see, that
Mhm.
are of course men of purpose, So
Mhm.
I'll say
That's
that
great.
I'll get it from that.
I love that you use examples from your environment to grow. I
Mm.
love that because so many people don't get the concept of that. And I want to talk about something that you just said, Christina, about doing research. I love the first of all that we live in an age of information, but I
Real easy.
can't stand, I cannot stand it when somebody will say that they don't know something that is readily available on Google. If you don't get your butt, like if a man will say, I don't know how to deal with emotions. I'm not emotional. Why? You know how many people out here writing articles about how to build emotional intelligence, about
Mm.
how to deal with, we got therapists out here that are writing articles. We've got brothers that are podcasting about it. We've got the Bible that gives us examples of it. We've got movies that demonstrate it. Why would you say, in a world that is full of connectedness, in a world full of data and information, that you don't know? You know what I mean? And so when you said do research, that's one thing, that another very important concept that I would love to share with people around, just around our community, because there is no excuse.
Nope.
There really is no excuse. If you're in a relationship that is challenging you, you need to raise to the occasion. You need to rise to the occasion and say, I might not know how to necessarily be a submissive woman, but I'm pretty sure my environment can teach me.
But
My
Reese,
mom is not.
I think it has to do with caring. I
Mhm.
think that's what
Ooh,
it is. I hate to say
yeah.
it, but
Caring enough
if
to look.
you're if you're with someone that
Mhm.
is emotional
Yeah.
and you're not emotional, and y'all been doing this dance for a while, because
Yeah.
sometimes a person is truly just ignorant, like they just ignorant, and you
Mhm.
have to sometimes talk to them like a child, like, listen, yo. But
Mhm.
if you have communicated, you have done what your part you're supposed to do as the emotional person, and this person is not getting the cues, I hate to say it, it comes down to them not caring. It
Mhm.
can't be that you just don't know, because it's too much things around you, too much information, too much of everything, experiences, people, like you said, the internet, movies, about it's too much for
Mhm.
you to be that ignorant, which means after time you just don't care.
Agreed.
You
Agreed.
don't care.
Agreed.
And
Because if
that
it was,
emotional person has to come to that realization.
because if it was something that you did care about, like let's just say you're trying to start a business and you need to know how to run this machine, you care enough about doing that, you go look for it. You don't know how to do it,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
you go look for that. So if you don't know how to do this other thing, you got, like you said, I totally agree. You got to care about it enough to go and actually do your research and be able to look for what actually is ailing you or your relationship. And I think that that builds character in people when they're able to go and read a book. I think is something that I used to always advocate for in my marriage, was let's read a book together so we can start exploring ideas and exploring thoughts and looking at, what's going on around us, because you never know what you can dig up from somebody else's consciousness, from somebody else's experiences and perspectives. So I love that. So let's go ahead and do some closing thoughts. We got about 7 minutes left for us to go ahead and give our lasting kind of what we want to leave people with in this conversation, because our relationships in the Black community are struggling. And so I kind of want to talk about what, just your off the top of your head, what you think are some of the most ailing things in our communities from a woman's perspective and a man's perspective, respectively. What is it that, Christina, can sisters do to bring ourselves to position to work with our men more in the ways that you feel we need to, like the level of maturity and us being able to wait for them and us being able to give them grace and all those other things. And then, Ron, I want you to discuss with our brothers how they can kind of tap more into this family tap more into the manhood, the leader, being a strong male with a backbone, being that type of man, a brother in the community and in the home, not necessarily just one or the other. Because sometimes I think that if a man feel like if he don't have kids, he could just be out here running the streets. But to me, that's not it's not a man. Because if you out here in the community running the streets and sowing your wild oats, those are homes that you're breaking, because you're treating the women in such a way that you're kind of damaging them for whatever child and husband they're getting ready to prepare for. So I want you to talk to brothers about what it is, in your opinion. So go ahead, Christina.
Okay, so what the question you asked me, I will leave my final statements to this to women out there. This is what I'll say. We can sit up all day and point out everything that men do that
Mm-hmm.
are wrong and that piss us off, right? But at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, we're not men.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't, I hate to say it, but we can't change nobody. We can't. We only can really work on us. So my advice would be this. My advice would be that women need to be more intentional with who they choose to love, because love is a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to put my love in a man who at the time was not ready to commit to me. So whether he in the end came back, that was still something I have to live with, because I chose that. No one put a gun to my head. No one made me do that. I consciously made a choice to commit to a man that did not commit to me. Thank God it worked out to where he was like, I want her. But if he had not, I cannot be bitter, angry, upset. Men are dolls and they're horrible. I have to look at myself and realize moving forward, I need to be more intentional with who I choose to love, because it's a double-edged sword. It's
Mm-hmm.
a double-edged sword. If I'm gonna wait for you, I gotta realize that it can go my way, or it can go his way, or it can go no way, and I can end up being hurt. I have to realize that. So I need to be more intentional with that. So that would be my advice to women. Yes, it's a lot of brothers out here that have dropped the ball. They really have, and it's a lot of hurt women out here, bitter women out here, and it's justifiable when you hear the stories. When you look at how many homes don't have fathers in it, why are these men just dropping their seeds, right? So with
Mm-hmm.
that being said, I'll say yes, we can prove that it's a lot of men out here that are like really messed up, but we're giving ourselves to them. We are opening ourselves up to them. We
Mm-hmm.
are allowing them to plant their seeds in us. We're doing this. So instead of trying to stand over the men and say, "Oh, you men," da, 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 let's let Brother Ron, let's let the men do it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's let the men get the men, and let us women start realizing that we need to work on us.
Mm-hmm.
We need to heal, and we need to move forward.
Mhm.
That's received.
All right. Well, I would say I've been listening to a lot of this, because it's like you can't escape it now. It's everywhere. It's all over the internet and stuff. Everywhere. This red pill, blue pill stuff, manosphere and stuff, and a lot of the stuff the men say are definitely true. Um, um, Women should be accountable and for things that they do and stuff like that, and they talk about feminism and stuff like that. But men, we know we're the leaders and we're supposed to be the leaders, right? Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Yeah, so we're the leaders, right? We're supposed to be the leaders, right? So if we're the leaders, we got to understand that things we do have a bigger effect because we are leaders. So when we go around, a lot of our brothers, cousins, whoever, when we go around, we're getting into this relationship and we having sex with this woman, no condom. We don't have the intent of this woman being our wife, and then we end up giving her a child. Now you causing your son, daughter, to grow up without a father in the home. So now that's a broken home. So now another brother's doing the same thing you're doing, and another brother, and then we're destroying our communities. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So we got to understand when we make bad decisions like that, we're not only affecting ourselves, we're affecting the whole community because you're not the most likely you're not the only person that's doing this. So what I'll say to brothers, we gotta start looking at each other as a community. Like for instance, right? Um, we lived across the street from us was a Mexican people, right?
Mm-hmm.
A whole bunch of them lived in the house. And little by little, me and my wife watched them grow their business, right? Grow their business. One became a roofer. The other was gardener and this, that. And they grew their business and started buying house after house after house,
Mm,
right? Within that neighborhood. And I want and I think we need to think more like that about helping our community and not destroying it. You know what I'm
agree.
saying? By just planting your seed everywhere. Now you're not able to be in your child's life like you want to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You're
planning
a
for the
part
future.
of destroying the community. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? We gotta look at that. You know what I'm saying? We gotta think of that. We gotta think of things before we do it instead of thinking of, man, I just want to smash that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
you gotta think deeper. And I'll just leave it at that.
I agree. I appreciate these perspectives tonight because, it's always going to take each one of us to do our part. Like you just said, we got to remember that we are members of a larger community and that we are members of a spiritual community, a spiritual family. The women and men that are out here who are taking advantage of a man or taking advantage of a woman and whatever they offer, it is a spiritual family member that you are destroying, and possibly your own offspring. And so it definitely takes a lot of self-awareness, and care. Like Christina said, you got to care about these things before you will even think to take action and invest in bringing the community up instead of destroying it. So in closing, I want to say thank you. I'm Reese Roberts, and this is Let's Talk Podcast. We had a great time tonight. So hopefully people will play this back and they'll have something to think about. Maybe they'll play it in their next, maybe reference it in their next podcast session, some of the things that we've said tonight. But hopefully this will fall on the right ears that will not be deaf and dumb and blind of what we're saying. So thank y'all for having me tonight. And
Thank you thank
yeah.
you. You did an excellent job.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, I hear the baby's calling now. You just in time. Just in time. Somebody said, "Come on, ma, you done." Bye, bye, y'all. Have a good night.